We're back with another playthrough, I guess, review. This is the second one I've gone through. I had a lot of fun doing the first one, got a lot of good feedback. This one's gonna be a lot shorter. This review is on the game Supernormal. If you haven't already seen the playthrough videos that have been posted here. But it's gonna be short because the game itself is short. It's designed to be a 2-hour gameplay experience. I'm gonna try to breeze through a lot of the sections as quickly as I can too. We have the same things, gameplay mechanics as the first one, story and atmosphere, sound design and music, visual and level design, and the replay value, like the replayability. As I progress more into making these videos, I'm probably going to go into detail a little bit less and less, unless it's asked for. But I mean, they're self-explanatory at this point. But yeah, with Supernormal, you start out as a detective that's been hired by the father of a missing daughter to inspect the daughter's residence, or it might be the father's. I'm not entirely sure. I kind of was a little hazy on the story a bit, but I tried to pay attention as best I could, and we'll get into that. There's little nuances here and there. But I've been really looking forward to playing this game because I actually watched Queso play it about probably 2 years ago. So it's always been a game that's been on my, I guess, to playlist. So it finally came on sale, and I was really excited to kind of grab it and see what we can make out of it. So let's go ahead and get on into it, shall we? All right, so for the first one, we have the gameplay and mechanics. And, again, this is a pretty self-explanatory category. I might add a few definitions here and there that apply to the game that I'm reviewing, but this one's pretty straightforward. Now, as you can see with the gameplay we have here, it's really, really smooth. It's one of the selling points that I saw with Supernormal when I watched a playthrough, was that the game just characteristically was very, very smooth. When you're moving your camera from left to right or right to left, it feels very crisp. The amount of detail that goes into the house, it was very, very nice. It really paid really high into the immersion that I was experiencing when playing the game. The variety of jump scares was really, really good too. You had a lot coming from Sophia. It was like any typical horror game where there's an early onset of a gradual buildup into the jump scares themselves. You had to find evidence in each room, and once you found like a certain amount of evidence, it kind of just like ticked off. And I will say too, though, like the gameplay was a little repetitive in its own way. It got to a point to where you would go and check the cams. There'd be a clue on the wall that you would need to find to log into the home computer to get to the dad's email account. And so you go into cams, you go to the clue room, you might get a jump scare, you go back to cams, and you get a clue. And the issue with that I had was, one, it's really repetitive, and two, it's not always as predictable. I think you'll see on the playthrough, there's probably about like 20-25 minutes of me just going back and forth, and nothing's triggering. So I didn't fully understand the AI behind like the enemy AI behind Sophia. It was just more so, you had this chance that you could die by her. And I've read online that there are a few things. Someone said that if you only check Sophia's email when you log into the computer, that it decreases the chance of her killing you. The game was advertised having multiple endings. There's only two. There's a good ending and a bad ending. And if you ever die by Sophia, you're going to get the bad ending. And so it really didn't paint a blueprint on avoid doing these things if you don't want to get killed by Sophia. And you can see that small red microphone symbol. There was voice recognition in the game too, which also I had to find the command cues online. It's a minor complaint. I mean, for gameplay and mechanics, I ultimately ended up giving this category 11 points, not because of the repetitiveness the cams and scares, but actually the audio. So I would say it tied a little bit between the audio and Sophia, because I got really frustrated with not knowing what I needed to do to not die by Sophia. So that really hurt the score a lot. But the other thing is that into the game, probably I was on my 7th clue. I just got my 7th clue, and I don't know if it was a part of the game, but my audio just cut out. It was like deafening silence, and I didn't know if that was part of the game or not. But then I ended up getting whacked by Sophia like in the next 5 minutes. I didn't hear any of it. Didn't hear her creeping up. Didn't hear her saying, I said look behind you or something like that. I turned around, I was dead, and I was like, okay, I don't think that's normal. And I think I even watched like a YouTube video of a playthrough to make sure, and I was right. It's just no audio for me. I don't know what the issue was. I had a paint document that I was keeping track of all the clues. Maybe that tripped up, where the audio was being played through. Had trouble recognizing going back, because this game really did take a lot of resources, which I don't know if I needed to turn VSync on or what the issue was. I never really put a lot of effort in trying to fix it, because the game itself was smooth. It's just everything outside of it was really, really choppy. And I think it was like, I don't know, I even closed a lot of unnecessary programs in the background, but it's besides the point. The biggest thing was that the audio cut out, and it actually affected my local save file for my follow-up playthrough, because I tried to catch back up to where I was really quickly to verify that, like, okay, maybe the sound just goes out after you get the 7th clue. But I was in this endless loop for probably about like 45 minutes, just not recording. I stopped the recording. I was frustrated. I was like, I'm just gonna get back to where I was and then continue back up. And it just took me a while to realize that I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this clue to trigger. I'm doing everything, getting the cams fired up. My last save point was I had already had the evidence discovered, and I read online that if you ever reset the game, there is a chance that it's going to affect your local like app data file, and you have to clear it. And at that point I was like, you know what, I'm just going to look up the last letter I need, and we're just going to chalk it up as that and move forward. And there was a whole lot of other stuff to deal with how you handle solving the computer, because you hear like knocking, and someone online said that only look at Sophia's email. As soon as the phone rings, go immediately to the door or something like that to get the good ending, because there's a lot of achievement hunters and they're trying to set themselves up to get the good ending, but apparently it's really difficult to get, and it frustrated a lot of people. But yeah, having said that, this category gets 11 points for that. So we're on to the next category, story and atmosphere. So I'll say, this story is actually pretty good. It was pretty well thought out. The pace was pretty well structured with it. There wasn't a lot of like breadcrumbs of story. I did find the personality of the detective was a little cheesy, and there wasn't really enough time for us to really attach to the character. But again, this is a short game, so you got to take that into account. But there wasn't really any lore drops during the game itself. Again, it's a very short, abridged game. So taking that into account, the story itself was really good, and I think also the audio really played into that as well. Timing with when you discovered certain plot developments, like when you get into the laptop and finally learn everything, it was a really cool experience to go through. So having said that, with the story and atmosphere, I'm gonna give it a 15 points. But yeah, like I said, the horror tension was absolutely immaculate with this game. Job well done with developing that story. I know it's really hard with horror games to kind of lay out a good story, one that's well thought out, because usually people will chop it up and they just want to throw a jump scare after jump scare and throw you in the deep end. But the story was really well thought out. Okay, now we have the sound design and music, and I kind of want the voice recognition system of this game. I didn't really know where I wanted to include it, so I might talk about it a little bit here, a little bit there, but I'll include it mainly in this category. So sound design and music and whatnot. The voice recognition is probably, it's really cool feature of the game, or so you think, right? I had to look up the commands that Sophia recognizes, and logically, as a player, you would think that these voice recognition commands would help you, initiate a clue or find further lore development. But honestly, all it really did was create more sound cues in the game that really carried no relevance. And now, I could be speaking incorrectly about this, but this is just my experience. It just felt really lackluster. It was cool, there was a lot of cool commands you could do, like "Where are you?" "Show yourself," "Can you help me?" and stuff like that. It felt very Phasmo-esque, but again, it really didn't help the progress of the game. Anywho, with the sound was amazing. I do wish there was a way to adjust the in-game audio and music separately, but I mean the natural thunderstorm, the build up of suspense and sound, and even when, like, you see the mic dropomizer, or the bar show up in the bottom right corner, you knew that Sophia was near you and was trying to either kill you, scare you, show you something, and the music feeding into that was just amazing. Getting into the laptop finally, and you're reading the email, and it feels like as you're reading the emails, the music is getting louder and louder, and you can hear Sophia in the background. It's stuff like that that really pays into the immersion of this game. So having said that, with the sound design and music, I'm gonna have to give it a 15 points overall. I think the voice recognition really didn't help, and the audio cue, or the audio sound being altered, or like corrupted, or whatever it may be, definitely didn't help. And not being able to drop it down individually, I had to use my computer's bass volume to adjust the game volume. Didn't really help, but I mean, it was still really, really good. It's hard to find a game that really has good soundtracks like this one, and it was really well thought out. The next category is visual level and design. This kind of ties into graphics also with gameplay. And like I already mentioned, the graphics in this game were amazing. I mean, we love a very detailed game like this. It was very, very cool to see. It would be cool to have an interactable environment and maybe a little more variety with the jump scares, but overall, it was really, really good. The lighting was amazing. It was perfect. The dark areas were dark enough, and the light areas were light enough. I will say, I think it was in my first playthrough, there was a cinematic scene where I guess I hadn't had my flashlight on before the cinematic hit, so it was just pitch black, and the music was suggesting that I'm about to get jump scared, and I did, but I wasn't able to see anything, so I wasn't really able to get scared about anything that was happening in the cinematic. To add to this too, with specifically visual and level design, initially playing this game, finding out there's multiple endings was really exciting, because that kind of tied into the next section of replayability. But only to find out that there's only 2 endings in the game was really depressing. We like a lot of games that offer a different, pick your own destiny type ending to a game, and that definitely didn't help at all. I would like to have more endings for sure. But the environmental detail, even though it wasn't necessarily interactable, was still insane. I mean, the amount of detail that was put into this house setting was crazy. So having said that, for this section, I'm gonna lock in with 18 points. And now we get into the final section, the replayability. Like I mentioned, this is the dev has even said this game's designed to be a 2-hour experience. So you can imagine the replayability. I thought about, it sucks because I can't take this section out. I got to keep my grading system the same for all games, but this section's really going to hurt the scoring, because it's not meant to be really replayability. Maybe like, every Halloween, or, every annual, like, where your brain slowly forgets how the experience of the game is. But, it overall, I'm watching my cheeky paint drawing. Yeah, the difficulty wasn't that hard. I think it was more frustration than anything. As first time playing, the jump scares were really fun. If I were to play again, I probably would expect a lot. Even trying to play through my second time to catch up to where I'm at, there were a lot of sections where I was, I anticipated it and wasn't really as scary. Now I had just experienced it, so it's, toss it up in the air. But there were a few jump scares that were different from the first one, so it was cool to see a little variety there. Still holds up for a first time playthrough. And even, having said that, with my whole grading system, I personally enjoyed it. I love horror games. I love ones that are heavily detailed. And the minute that the sound was immaculate and there was an amazing story tied to it, had me sold. So, having said that, for replayability, I'm gonna have to give it 12 points. So if you haven't already done the math, with all the sections added up and whatnot, the overall score for Supernormal is going to be a 71%, which a little low, but with these one-shot horror games, I don't really expect a high-end score, especially because I want my grading system to be fair, not restrictive or too relaxed, but fair. And I think this is a fair score for Supernormal. It would have been a lot higher had I not had audio issues, or even after the audio issues, if I, once I troubleshooted them online, everyone else complaining about the same thing, that also fed into, okay, it's not just me, and it's a common issue with the game. On Steam it has mixed reviews, but I ignore all that because that, it could be a number of reasons. It could be review bombs, someone's bad experience. I want to give my honest review. I want to help you guys decide if you want to play this game or not. But even with all of that, it still was a great game. Had amazing potential for jump scare. I think it just needed more. It definitely felt like a really good starting stone. Having two endings and the jump scares that it had, and her crawling like we just saw was extremely like hair standing on the neck freaky. The detail was great, the lighting was great, audio was great, music was great. Just a few things, and I feel like it'd be a perfect game. Yeah, here's the game cut my audio here. Yeah. So yeah, and even after I got all that squared away, it took me 30 minutes of just a big old nothing burger trying to get back to where we were. And I eventually just threw the towel in, and I looked up the last letter, typed in the login and password, and just went from there and triggered the final ending. But yeah, Supernormal is an amazing cheeky game. I definitely will be using it for my rotation for my Halloween streams on Twitch. Even though 71 seems low, I would not discourage you from not trying the game. I think, best case, just get this game when it's on sale, which is what I did, because that was what was recommended to me. They said, Supernormal is a great game, has its faults, but if you really want to try to enjoy it, I would recommend trying to grab it when it's on sale. Now, normally, as my cheeky, different from other review sections is, the fun facts about the game. If you watch my fear video, I had a lot of fun facts. I actually had to take a pick of which ones I want. But with how short this game is, I only really have 2 facts for you guys. The first one, you could have guessed this. This is all done by a solo dev. And it's, given how smooth and flushed it is, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, my hat's off to the dev for able to get this accomplished. And I looked on their Steam profile. They have numerous other games already published that I cannot wait to try, to see how it compares to Supernormal. Like I said, I've been wanting to play Supernormal for a long time, and I'm excited that I was able to get through it. The story was great. I love a game with a good story. And the other cool fact that I learned was that actually Sophia's model was taken from Allison Road. And if you don't know who that is, it was a Silent Hill playtest model. The dev actually got permission from the Silent Hill team to use it in their game. So I think that's pretty cool. Other than that, I couldn't really find any interesting tidbits and whatnot. But, all in all, a great game. Would highly recommend to play. But again, I would only really get this game if it ever was on sale. And if you're looking to add a game to a horror stream rotation, it's not really a game to invest a crazy amount of time into. You only really need 2 hours, maybe even an hour and a half at most. But other than that, it's a good game. Like I said, I love a game with a good story, and this game hit it head on. So Thanks everyone for watching this review. I look forward to hearing your guys' comments, critiques, what you think I could do better. I haven't really locked in on what I want to review next. I have a couple horror games lined up. I just got to figure out which one I'm feeling, and trying to space out the reviews and not do them so quickly so I can have more time to work on the content itself. So stay tuned, keep my YouTube up, notified, and you know, keep a lookout for the next playthrough video. Thanks everyone.